Comic book and manga fans, this is H.H. German from Sigma Comics. And listen, there was a fight that happened last night. Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano. We're going to talk about it. I did post before this fight. Normally I wouldn't cover a fight of this magnitude because this is really a celebrity fight. But I got quite a few inquiries about it. You might not know, but I am a former pro fighter, actually a former MMA fighter. So I know a thing or two about fighting. But let's tell you who we are, and then we'll go into the video. We are Sigma Comics. We are dedicated to fighting animal cruelty through our comic book series, Here Comes Calico. We have a wonderful website, sigmacomics.com, where we sell these wonderful books. You're looking at comics and trade paperbacks. Here are the comic books. We have trade paperbacks. We have manga. We have merch. And right now, on Kickstarter, we have our latest trade paperback, folks, Calico Unwanted Men. Calico Unwanted Men. Look at the incredible testimonials by legendary creators of the day. You're really going to love this. Again, if you're an animal lover, Calico is pretty much well, let's just say he gets intel on people who abuse and kill animals, and he goes after them with extreme justice. He makes the Punisher look like Gandhi. So this is a really intense series. If you love animals and you hate animal abusers, you have a new hero, folks. It's Calico. Get Unwanted Men on Kickstarter right now. Just type in Calico Unwanted Men on Kickstarter.com, and you'll see. You can back it. Only 2 weeks left to pre-order. All right, let's get to the video. All right, before I do, of course, I have to take my customary sip of the old Calico mug. Never disappoints. I usually cough a little after I take a sip. That's because of what's in there. All right. Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano. This was promoted in a very interesting way, as a lot of these fights these days are. Folks, this is really more of an exhibition fight. This is there's the cough. This is a contest between, basically at this point, two celebrities, right? Ronda Rousey was an MMA fighter, an active MMA fighter. Then she got into the WWE. That, for those of you who don't know, that's professional wrestling. Okay, and you know what that's all about. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, she's not an active, ranked fighter at this point by the UFC. She's a celebrity. Okay, pretty much a retired celebrity. Gina Carano, I mean, she's firmly in that territory. This is somebody who hasn't fought in nearly 20 years. And, I mean, that alone, and of course she was also an actress on some of these well-known properties, Star Wars properties. I think she was on The Mandalorian, if I'm not mistaken. That's the name of the title there. A Disney show, I'm pretty sure. And that's what this is, folks. This is a celebrity fight. The way it was being pitched to the public as some, legends coming together, I think that was pretty disingenuous there. And the outcome of this fight to me was very, very elementary. In fact, I posted about it the day before. This was my post on Facebook. It only got one like because it was a very low. I'm not very prolific on social media, so this was somebody, a local person there, that made a post that didn't have a lot of followers. But I saw the post and I wanted to say something about it because, of course, I do dabble in fighting, and I am engaged quite often about these fights. Hey, HH, what do you think? What do you think is going to happen in this fight? So I posted a reply to this post that I saw about this fight, and I said, listen, 100 pound weight loss emoji, right? Wonderful applause. I mean, that's just commendable. I can tell you that when I was in high school, I was a chubby kid. I got up to, of course, I was lifting weights too, so it wasn't all chub, but I was lifting weights and I got up to 230. In the following year, through boxing, I was able to get down to 152 pounds. So that's a pretty good weight loss. Not 100 pounds, but right in that same sort of general zip code. And I know how tough that was. But to do it in your 40s, please, folks, keep in mind this is a 40-plus-year-old woman here that did this. Kudos to her, and that's why she merited that applause. Now, right before a fight, that's a whole different ballgame, folks. You're going to lose 100 pounds before a professional fight, a combat contest? No, that's a whole different can of worms there. And then you have a 17-year layoff. Folks, come on. The outcome here was pretty obvious. Now, of course, I say a however, because in any fight, and especially any fight that is of any interest, you have to have some kind of something at least coming from the other side that's beneficial. And that thing was that out of 12 professional fights that Ronda Rousey has won, 9 of them, let me repeat that, out of 12 fights that this woman, Ronda Rousey, has won, 9 of them have come by armbar. I mean, if you're a fighter of any prowess whatsoever, you know the formula here. This is somebody who really, I don't want to knock Ronda Rousey here. No offense. I mean, this woman is incredibly talented. Very talented at this one move, though. Rousey can sing, but she really only has one song, folks. 9 of her wins out of 12 have come by armbar. I mean, the formula here is elementary. This is so that's why I said, listen, this is a one-trick pony. All you have to do, if you're a striker, who beats someone like Ronda Rousey? Because for the uninitiated, she has an armbar. That's what she does. Okay, she gets to you quick. She gets you in that armbar, and that's it. Because she has that good grip, she's able to pull it off, and her technique is flawless. She gets it in, she locks it in, and you're done. All right. Now, when you're going up against somebody who is 20 years almost out of the octagon or ring, lost 100 pounds, the outcome is pretty much going to be straightforward. Again, that said, if Gina was working strictly on, I don't know how long she trained for this, but if her trainers had her locked in specifically on that avoidance of the takedown to the ground, okay, through fast strikes, and that's, of course, what Ronda is susceptible to. She definitely had an opportunity, hence my response there. Okay, all you have to do, folks, in this type of situation is strike very quickly. Okay, obviously, movement, striking, you got to get the angles, striking, and they have to be fast strikes. They can't be slow. Because remember, when you lift a leg to kick somebody, there's only one leg on the ground. All right. So, and this woman Rousey is not slow. All right. So let me clarify here. I'm not knocking anyone in this video. Ronda Rousey is an incredibly talented fighter. All I'm saying is that she knows how to sing one song really good. She's incredibly talented at singing one song. You see what I'm saying? Imagine going to a concert, and this is why I'm not the biggest fan of Rousey. Imagine going to a concert, and the person who you're seeing, the band or whatever, they keep singing the same exact song over and over again the whole night. That's Ronda Rousey. And that's why I've never been a big, fan or supporter of her, because she's very one-dimensional. This isn't even possibly. She is unequivocally the most one-dimensional fighter in the history of professional combat sports. There, I said it. I don't care if you're a man, woman, they, them, anyone going into a fight, she is the ultimate one-dimensional fighter. You just have to get out of her damn way, okay, which is not an easy thing, because remember, I mentioned this woman is very talented. Okay, what she does very well. You have to have good movement, and you have to have very fast hands or feet. Remember, striking. All right, because she's not good at that. She is not good at very fast hands. She has very big problems with it. Now, once she does get you to the ground, let me be clear. It's not a matter of her just locking you down. What she does is she'll get on top of you, she'll mount, and she'll drop down the bombs, because she's not a weak woman. She's a strong woman. All right, so what happens is once you have to defend the ground and pound, you give up an arm. to do this. You have to put arms up. She just grabs one. Okay, this is by design. She's hitting you so that you can put up one of those arms. All she needs to do is lock one in, like she did to Gina, and roll back. All right, roll her body back, and that's it. You're done. She grabs it, she locks the legs, boom, you're done. All right, and that's exactly what she did. All right. Again, I want to talk about who I am and why I'm qualified to say these things in the manner I'm saying them. Again, I'm a former pro fighter. Okay, I rolled around, trained with, fought against, and with some legendary fighters. You see a picture here. This is back in the 90s. You got Ralph Gracie, that's Hoist Gracie's cousin. He's got his arm around me there. Behind me, in the back, there's two legendary fighters. The guy directly behind me, to your left, is going to be Hall of Famer, UFC Hall of Famer, Vitor Belfort. All right, and to his right, that's Conan Silveira. These are legendary fighters. Below me, sitting down, right in front of me, is John Lewis. In my view, probably one of the most important, if not the most important person in American MMA. He was the trainer of the Fertitta brothers, and I think he also trained Dana White, if I'm not mistaken. I know he was coordinated with that, and he was basically an inspiration to these gentlemen who I mentioned to invest in the UFC and take it to where it is now. Okay, of course, it was sold by the Fertittas, but they were greatly credited by taking the sport to a whole new level. And of course, John Lewis was right there in the mix to that. And next to him is Igor Zinoviev, a man who I fought, who beat me soundly. Of course, he outweighed me by a dramatic amount. But that's how we did it back then. If you notice the picture, I don't have any gloves. That's how we did it back then. No gloves, no weight classes. And, he did his job on me. But Igor Zinoviev, legendary fighter. And, of course, he's been in the, let's just keep it there. But the bottom line is, I know what I'm talking about when it comes to fighting. And getting back to this fight, these are two very talented women, but one of them simply really had no business there. This was really a celebrity competition and a weight loss opportunity. If you looked at how Gina reacted, both before the fight and after the fight, this is a person who was not carrying that weight well. She looked very weak and frail. Even how she was talking, that's not the voice of a fighter, folks, going into a professional contest. She looked very depleted and weak. And not Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey is, for the most part, maintained, generally speaking. You could gain a few pounds here, 10, 15, whatever it is, but she was not walking around in any way like a woman who was obese or morbidly obese or overweight, like Gina did. Gina got up into the, mid 200s there. So that's that's weight that is extremely heavy for her height. And obviously a lot of that was body fat. So, Rousey, of course, very strong fighter. That's actually one of the things she's known for. Good strength, speed. And before and after the fight, she was looking her normal self, whereas Gina was looking getting frail. And then after the fight, you saw her reaction. She was just happy. This is to her. That's not the reaction of somebody who was going in there to win. And that's what gives me the... it's hard for me to say that because, and I say this, see, this is what I'm saying. This is the difference when you're a fighter. When you're a fighter and you lose, especially like that, you're not going to get off the ground smiling like that. Like, oh, it's over. Are you kidding me? Like, I'd be devastated. And I have been. When the one fight I lost, and I lost it to Igor, he beat me in less than a minute too. But it wasn't, 17 seconds. But, it wasn't a long fight either. And I was devastated. I really was. I was a kid. I was only 21 years old. Sorry, I got to take another. I'm getting a little emotional here. When you lose, folks, and you're a fighter, and you train for months, it is blood, sweat, and tears, folks. Literally. Okay, I know a lot of people use that word literally, and I'm one of these people that, as a writer, it's difficult for me to hear that word, how abused it is. It's almost like claws, nails on a chalkboard when I hear people say literally. Folks, fighting is a hard game. Okay, you get injured, you feel the pain. Okay, the sweat of other fighters, the blood. It is mano a mano, and you have to do this day in and day out, folks. You're sparring people on a regular basis. In some cases, all around, town, around the country, depending on the level of fight, and it takes a toll. There's a reason why we make the money we make. Well, I should say made, because I don't fight anymore, and it's been a long time since I've been fighting. But it still lives with me. And of course, I carry my experiences onto the comic book page. Okay, this is why it's a very personal thing for me when I do talk about fighting, because I know what it's like. You do not get beaten and immediately get up, smile, and hug your opponent like that. Great fight, especially when you lost in 17 seconds. I mean, that to me tells me that training camp, the Carano training camp, was not doing the effective things to get out of the way of the Rousey attack. Okay, they just fell immediately victim to it. Okay, the one thing you had to train for is the one thing you didn't do, and you lost the fight. Now again, kudos to Carano for doing a wonderful job, just absolutely incredible. Again, this woman's over 40 years old. She lost 100 pounds. Okay, this is why she got that applause. It's an incredible feat, and it's not everybody who can do this. In fact, it's very, very few people who could do this naturally without doing surgeries and what do you call that? The gastric bypass and whatever. If you train 100 pounds off, wow, that's again kudos. But then you had the 17-year layoff. That's just too much. But if you knew that going in and you really, really took this fight seriously, the very least you could have done with that training camp was know the obvious, which was how on earth. That was the first question you needed to answer in that training camp. At every training camp, you have to sit down with your management, your trainers, coach management, and you have to formulate. Get this word. You have to formulate a strategy on how to succeed, how to end that, how to finish that race, how to get to that goal line, okay, that finish line with the win, with the W, with the cup, or with the belt. That's your responsibility. The number one question that needed to be answered in that training camp, that first day when they sat down, was how are we going to overcome the armbar? How do we do this? And then formulate a multi-tiered strategy on how to avoid A, getting taken to the ground, and B, how to mitigate the exposure of arms to not be caught in an armbar. It does not seem to me, based on what I saw in these videos. Of course, I didn't see this fight live. I wouldn't be crazy to do something like that. But I did see the replays on YouTube, and I saw what I pretty much predicted, the day before when I posted. I just didn't think it was going to go down this quickly. I mean, this to me indicates that there was absolutely no effort given to defending against this armbar. Wow. Anyway, those are my thoughts, folks. I don't mean to come down, and I have to mend a bit, because it may seem to you that I'm being a bit harsh to the fighters. Again, I will say it again. I will repeat it. Both of these are very talented women here. That both of them did a great job last night. One of them did a great job in terms of her performance and affecting her strategy. The other one did a great job on her body. The fact that she was able to get herself in really good condition and take care of her health. Because walking around at 240 pounds is not a healthy thing. So kudos to her. She did a fantastic job. But this simply was not in any way a competitive contest. And that to me, again, as a former pro fighter, is the lament I have. Because every time a bell rings, I expect to see a contest and people truly devoted to the craft. Okay, because that's exactly what it is. That's why they call it an art, martial arts. Okay, when you go in there, it's like the characters from the Gladiators said in the movie. You know, we're here prepared to die. Every time you go in there and that cage locks or that bell sounds in the ring, you may die. Okay, and you have to take this very seriously. And I think that this was just a contest of somebody challenging herself to get into great shape and doing something incredible for herself and her family. I'm sure she has lots of people that love her. And again, I'll say it again, kudos to her. That is fantastic and absolutely unbelievable stuff that she was able to accomplish. But the truth is that it was apparent that formula, I'll say it again, the formula, the strategy simply was not there for the attempt to actually engage and come out of there with a victory. I think she was happy at just getting in good shape. And kudos for Rousey to sticking to her typical boilerplate strategy of winning, and she got it done. All right, now conversely, I've been a little hard on Gina. Let me get on Rousey here. It's easy for me to, of course, to say all these things sitting down here. I saw some language about, she's always, Rousey has always been a very boisterous character in the press there, saying quite a few things that are pretty striking. But let's be clear, Ms. Rousey, or Mrs. Rousey. I think she's married with kids, so Mrs. Rousey. Excuse me. There was no meaning of disrespect. But let's be clear here. This was a celebrity match. You beat someone who was clearly impacted by a very significant weight loss, somebody who's been out of the ring for 20 years. Let's be very clear on what this is. I've heard some statements that are rather diluted. I mean, incredibly diluted. This is not a top 5 ranked fighter. I think anyone who is ranked top 5 or even top 10, well, maybe top 5. Let's keep it there. This is not something where you beat a top 5, opponent, and you're making statements as if you're a world champion already here. So let's be clear on what this is. It's a great accomplishment for you as a retired, celebrity to come in and prove that your strategy of getting someone down to the ground and locking them up is still effective. Kudos to you for that. Okay. But let's be clear, this is not in any way a championship level fight. So the talk about best fighter of this or that and all this other nonsense about championships and all this other craziness. No, absolutely not. If this was a top 5 fighter in the weight class, this would have gone in my view, in a very, in not a direction that you would have liked. So if that's where you want to go, then absolutely kudos to you. In fact, you should be supported and commended for trying to do that at your age, because I think frankly once you get over 35 in the fighting sports, it's very difficult to do this. But again, I'm just trying to add reality to the perspective of what this actually is. Okay, the idea that this is some kind of GOAT situation and all this other craziness is simply absurd. Two fighters who are celebrities, who one of whom came in and showed what she was able to do with her technique, and it's very effective. Yes, we thank you for that. And the other one that actually did something for herself and her family in losing an incredible amount of weight, working on her health so that she could add some years to her life and her family, being together and all that good stuff. So that's all I'm saying, and I wanted to be clear about that because it's important. I am approached every time there's a big fight, because people know that the Calico readers know that I used to fight. So I add my knowledge of the fight game. So anyway, that's enough. I just wanted to let you know and do a quick video about this. If you haven't already, please consider picking up Calico Unwanted Men. Guys, if you love MMA, if you love fighting, you're going to love this series. Why? Because that's exactly what Hector Gill is. He's a former boxer, an MMA fighter from the Bronx who lives in Brooklyn and goes after people who abuse and kill animals. The writing is very technical, so if you're a fight person, you're going to love this. Pick it up. It's on Kickstarter now. 176 pages, folks. And we got the legendary Mike Barron, Punisher writer, the editor of this, of course, my mentor as well. And that's all I wanted to say to you, folks. I just wanted to give you my 2 cents on the fight. And I've given it to you. But remember why we're here and why we're doing all these videos. We're here for the animals, folks. That's what Calico does. He's the ultimate defender of animals. And we're Sigma Comics. We fight animal abuse through comics. And anytime there's anything related to comics or fighting, we will give you some words on that. So my final word is keep on fighting for animals.